In every sport, there are seasons where the league follows trends, where the giants stay giants, the contenders look like contenders, and the standings feel like a slow march toward inevitability. Then there are seasons like this, where the NHL seems to wake up every morning and choose violence against the concept of certainty. This year hasn't just been unpredictable, it's been unstable in a way that feels almost intentional, as if the league is daring fans, analysts, and even the teams themselves to admit they have no idea what's coming next. The so-called contenders keep tripping over their own expectations, the bottom feeders keep stealing games they have no business winning, and every time a team looks like it's finally found its identity, the league rips the floor out from under them and hands the spotlight to someone else entirely. Parity isn't new in hockey, but this isn't parity. This is volatility. This is a season where momentum lasts about as long as a shift change, where a 5-game win streak means nothing, and where the gap between cup threat and lottery team feels thinner than it's ever been. The NHL has become a storm with no calm, no predictable path. Just chaos swirling from October to April, swallowing every assumption we thought we could trust. And maybe that's the point. Maybe this is the season where the traditional contender finally dies. Not because the great teams got worse, but because the rest of the league stopped waiting their turn. Because the NHL in recent years has belonged to the teams willing to embrace the madness rather than fight it. This year, the madness is winning. If you want proof that this season has broken the old hierarchy, just look at the teams we're supposed to trust. The Stars, the Panthers, the Avalanche. 3 organizations built to win right now. 3 rosters loaded with talent, experience, and structure. And yet each has spent stretches of this season looking strangely mortal. Colorado, for example, recently find themselves in a .500 slump over their last 10 games, but typically have nights where they look like the most terrifying team in hockey. Dallas can't decide if they're an offensive powerhouse or if they want to have a 3-11 stretch as they approach the midseason mark. Florida, last year's juggernaut, is officially in the basement of the Eastern Conference and have been plagued by nonstop injuries. And while the heavyweights wobble and some crumble, something even stranger is happening beneath them. Teams that should be buried by now simply refuse to go away. The newest expansion team, the Utah Mammoth, the Red Wings, the Kraken, all floating within reach of a high playoff seed sitting in 3rd or 4th place when they really shouldn't be. These are teams that, in recent seasons, would and should have faded by Christmas. Instead, they're punching above their weight, stealing points from contenders, and forcing the league to admit that the middle of the pack has never been more dangerous. This is why this season feels so unstable. The gap between the best teams and the teams that shouldn't be here has collapsed. The traditional contenders aren't exactly struggling, they're just being chased by more teams than ever for longer than ever. The playoff race used to narrow by February. Now, it feels like it widens. More teams stay alive. More teams believe. More teams can talk themselves into a run. And that's the real story of this season. Not that the great teams got worse, but that the rest of the league got bold enough to challenge them. The NHL didn't lose contenders. It's gained competitors. This season feels different. This season feels like the entire structure of the NHL shifted under our feet, not because the league wanted chaos, but because the sport itself evolved into something that no longer rewards predictability. The old rules about who should be good, who should fade, and who should dominate simply don't apply anymore. And when you zoom out, you start to see why. The first reason's philosophical. The NHL has quietly become a league where certainty is impossible by design. The salary cap is flat in dynasties. The draft lottery has erased the idea of guaranteed rebuilds. And the rise of hyper-athletic, hyper-skilled young players has injected volatility into every roster. Teams don't get 5-year windows anymore. They get 18-month windows, if they're lucky. A team could go from contender to confused in a single offseason, and the opposite is just as true. Look at the Devils last year versus this year. Look at the Oilers' annual identity crisis. Look at the Penguins, who have been both still dangerous and completely cooked, depending on which week you check. But the deeper explanation is analytical. The numbers tell a story the eye test has been hinting at for years. The gap between the best and the middle has collapsed. League-wide scoring is up. Goaltending is more volatile than ever. Young players are entering the league NHL ready at 19, and veterans are aging out faster than they used to. The cap has forced contenders to rely on cheap depth, and cheap depth is unpredictable by nature. When your third line is made of 22-year-olds, you're going to get nights where they look unstoppable and nights where they look like they've never played together. That's not a flaw. That's the new NHL. And then there's the emotional layer, the part fans feel even if they can't articulate it. This chaos has changed what it means to follow a team. For years, fans of bubble teams knew the truth. By February, their season was basically over. Not anymore. Now, the Mammoth, Red Wings, Kraken, teams that should be drifting towards irrelevance, are hanging around the playoff line deep into the season. They're not great, but they're not bad enough to die either. They're alive. And in a league this unstable, alive is dangerous. Fans don't check out in December anymore. They don't give up on the season by the All-Star break. Every fan base, even the ones that shouldn't have hope, suddenly have a reason to believe. And belief is powerful. Belief keeps arenas loud. Belief keeps fan bases engaged. Belief turns a random Tuesday game against a contender into a measuring stick, a statement, a spark. When the league is this open, every team feels like it's one hot streak away from rewriting its story. And every fan feels like they're watching something that does matter. That's the real heart of the chaos this season. It's not just that the NHL is unpredictable. It's that unpredictability has become the point. The league didn't lose its hierarchy, it's outgrown it. And in the process, it created something rare in modern sports. A season where everyone, from the juggernauts to the misfits, get to dream a little bit longer. There's an argument to be made, and honestly, it's getting harder to deny, that this might be the most entertaining era the NHL has ever produced. Not the cleanest, not the most predictable, not the most structurally sound, but the most alive, the most chaotic, the most emotionally volatile, the kind of season where every night feels like a coin flip and every team feels like it's one hot streak away from rewriting its destiny. And for fans, that volatility is intoxicating. Because what other league gives you this many teams still fighting for something real this late in the year? What other league lets a roster that's just decent hang around long enough to scare the hell out of a contender? What other league gives you nights where the Avalanche look unbeatable only to get punched in the mouth by a team that shouldn't even be in the conversation? This isn't parity. It's competitive saturation. It's a league where the floor has risen so much that the ceiling doesn't feel unreachable anymore. And that's the magic of it. That's why the arenas are feeling louder. That's why fan bases feel more connected. That's why every game, even the ones buried on a Tuesday night, feels like it matters. Because in a season this unstable, hope lasts longer. Heartbreak hits harder, and belief, that fragile, irrational, beautiful thing, becomes a currency every fan gets to spend deep into the spring. You know the tension of a season where every game feels like it carries the emotional load of a month. You know the thrill of chaos, the agony of momentum swings, the way a single play can flip everything. Hockey has that same energy right now, but stretched across months, not weeks. And with football stepping aside for a moment, and baseball still warming up in the bullpen of spring, there is no better time to give hockey a real chance if you haven't given it a chance before. Not the casual, I'll check the highlights kind of chance, a real chance. Sit down for a full game, any game. Watch the speed, the violence, the precision, the desperation. Watch how quickly a lead evaporates. Watch how a team with no business winning in the odds suddenly starts believing they can. Watch how the crowd reacts when a bubble team scores a late equalizer in a game they absolutely need to stay alive. This is the NHL at its unpredictable, most competitive, most emotionally charged. And if you've never let yourself get pulled into it, these next 2 months are at the perfect time, because the league has never been more open, the stakes have never been higher, and the chaos, the beautiful, maddening, unforgettable chaos, has never been more fun. This isn't just a hockey season invite, it's a promise. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the next one.